Hello, UK Crime Book Club. We are live for our final festival of the year, my absolute favourite, Winterfest. And I've got two of my favourite people who have agreed to join me today and couldn't be more thrilled to bring you Janice, Hallett and Abigail Burdess. So, hello, ladies.
Hi, hello.
Hi, hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. So, Janice, would you like to say a little bit about the Christmas appeal and show off that gorgeous cover? And I'll do the same.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm the wrong way.
There it is. And there it is again, even nearer. There we go. The Christmas Appeal is my latest novella, and it follows on from my first ever novel, The Appeal, that was launched in January 2021. And the Christmas Appeal takes us back to the drama group that was central to that story. And it's 4 years later, 4 years after the events. So there's been a few changes in Lockwood and in the drama group in that time. We've had a change of leadership. It's now a democracy. So people have to be voted in. So that changes the dynamics a bit. And as it's approaching Christmas, the Fairway players are putting on a pantomime. Now, Sarah Jane is quite determined that this pantomime is going to be the best ever play the Fairway players have ever done. But Celia, who is her big rival, is determined it will be the complete opposite of that. And into that dynamic comes a body. And like the appeal, we're with Femi and Charlotte, and we're trying to find out who did it and who did what and when. And it's a laugh. It's fun, fab, and festive. The Christmas Appeal.
But you don't have to work it out yourself as the reader via Christmas cards or anything.
No, not quite. Not quite. No. No, you do have to read it to the end to find out, but you don't have to do any work. No, so it's not. And you
I was
don't
like,
have to.
Janice will have done something fiendish.
No, I do give the answers.
It's Christmas, guys.
It's fun though. You can work it out as you go along. You can kind of. Well, I didn't, but you could.
You could. Yeah,
really
if you keep up.
You're
You
clever
could.
as Janice. You can work it out as you go along. That is the challenge in her books, isn't it? That you're just like, oh God, it's just as clever as her. I can do it.
And of course, you don't have to have read The Appeal. I should say that they're standalone, so you can read it first if you like before The Appeal.
Abby, tell us a bit about Mother's Day, and let's see if we can get the right hand of this crime.
That is like this is the most unseasonal thing I could be trying to plug at this point. So, Mother's Day, buy it for Christmas, but not for your mum. No, you can buy it for your mum because, but you just have to write in it. This makes me grateful for you. That's the law. You're buying it for your mum.
If that isn't the best sales pitch ever.
Like this makes me extra grateful for you. That's my top tip. No, it's so Mother's Day is about Anna, who goes and she got left on a traffic island when she was a baby, and she discovers a clue. She gets mugged, and she discovers a clue as to her identity, and she goes and finds her family, and they're so welcoming and warm and rich and eccentric. And are they all right? No, they're not, because that's how thrillers work. So that's the so it's a sort of family secrets and all of that. So if you like a very, very dark domestic thriller. But yeah,
it's brilliant.
Oh,
I loved it. It was a real different read, really refreshing and original. I thought when I read it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I haven't read the Christmas Appeal, but I read The Appeal, which was brilliant. Oh. So we're old mates, me and Janice.
It's one of the best things when you have guests on who know each other as well. It always just adds that something extra. I always love it. We're talking two very different books here. We have one very much cozy and one very much the absolute opposite of cozy. They couldn't be any more different. But I'd say one of the biggest things they've got in common is the humour throughout. I did not stop laughing, and I've got to admit, at some points in your book, Abby, you think I'm laughing and I feel really mean for laughing. You kind of like, your dark side's coming out. When you just kind of decide to let it all go and just settle into it.
Yeah, you got to
just
dig
go
in
with it.
Yeah, Janice's book's very funny. I actually read some of it. I read some, not the Christmas book, but I read some of the appeal out loud to my partner because I was like, "This is so funny," and yeah, you're so great with voices.
Yeah.
Really good
Well,
with this.
I was think it's like I'm in that character while I'm writing. So when I come to then read them, it's kind of news to me. I don't. It's really weird. It's it's like I am that character while I'm writing from their point of view. It's kind of a weird thing that goes on with me while I'm working. It's the subconscious and the conscious. It's not very funny, but it is, how we
it's a
manage to
strange
write.
thing, isn't it? It's like a sort of. Sometimes I'm like, did I write this in a fugue state?
Yeah, I think so. It's really, really weird because we read with our conscious minds, but write with our subconscious.
Yeah, but it all just like, and also that strange thing that happens when you sometimes realize how things are going to tie up without you having meant it.
Yeah,
Like, when oh my God, that person is connected to that person in that way, but you don't necessarily know that at the beginning, or
and that happens so often. I don't know whether you find that it happens a lot to me. It's very strange.
Yeah. That's so even just like, sorry, we talk about writing process now, but even I remember when I was, did I say this to you, Sam? I think you might have been the only person I said this to because you always bring out my like stories. But I spoke to my mum after I'd read it, and she went, and I said she'd be left on a traffic island. And she went, "Oh, your best friend got left on a traffic island when you were a kid." And I just completely blanked it. I didn't know I was writing about her. And then she was like, no, when you were like 3, your best friend was a kid who'd been rescued. She'd been left by the side of a road.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God. It's strange, isn't it? Stuff that you don't know you've remembered or you.
Yeah, you did tell me, but I don't know if it was during the interview or kind of in like a little bit beforehand or the week before when we were doing the promo. Yeah, I think we start talking and we don't stop. So it could have been at any point. It's really interesting to hear you both talk about kind of a fugue state for writing characters. I think just before we went live, and I was talking to Janice, and I was saying that you can tell with each character they've got such distinctive voices in the Christmas appeal. And I would have thought that was a really hard thing to do, and you two make it look so easy.
I think character writing that's like, because Janice, you come from a comedy writing background, right? So this is about. So I first became aware of Janice's work when I read a script of hers for we were doing read-throughs for comedy pilots, and so I read Janice's sitcoms before I read her book, which were very, very, very strong characters, huge characters, and very funny. And so I think that is a comedy writing thing, isn't it? That you have to write, like comedy sort of is character in the way that it doesn't necessarily. I don't think drama has to be. Of course, character's very important in drama, but I think character and plot are the same thing in comedy, in a very demanding way structurally. And I think, not to be too pointy-headed about it, I don't know if Janice will agree with this, but I think there is a similarity there with crime.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a character thing, because you can have a sitcom with people just sitting on a sofa, and as long as they're funny characters with funny lines that are delivered with conviction, nothing else has to happen. It can be just the characters, and that's the most amazing thing about comedy. I don't know, comedy and crime. I was really intrigued about the link between the two, because there doesn't appear to be one to begin with, and yet so many crime novels and crime, things for the screen are funny.
Yeah, and are written by people who used to write comedy. Like what's the Slow Horses at the moment I'm watching, which is absolutely brilliant.
Oh, Nick Herron.
Nick Herron.
Oh,
Nick Herron's books. So I think they're Sleeping Lions, the series, but it's adapted by Will Smith, who's a comedy writer.
Okay.
and it's very funny as well as being very dark. But I would say, I mean, that's more thrillerish than directly detective, but it's spy. It's a spy thing. But loads of comedians have written, Frankie Boyle's written his Stoner murder mystery, hasn't he? And was it Mark Billingham's got that incredibly successful sort of range of crime books.
Tom Thorne.
Is that what they are? The Tom Thorne books, right? Yeah. So he was a stand-up.
This is my Tom Thorne Billingham shelf.
Oh, that's there. That's ready. So yeah, no, I was thinking a bit about why comedy writers are so drawn to crime, comedians turning to crime.
Maybe it's because, well, you need the comedy to offset the horror of crime.
Also,
it's
absolutely.
Like you kind
we're
of
all
need
really
that.
messed up, aren't we, Janice?
Yeah.
Comedy writers are very messed up people.
Yeah, they are true. Yeah, it's very true. I think you need to be the best, the very best comedians and the best comedy actors and the best comedy writers have some real darkness in them, and that makes them so good. And I'm sure psychologists have reasons for that, but it's so true. And of course, crime is as dark as you can get.
Yeah, I think it's also to do with I was trying to think of it. It's like I think they're both really moral forms because they're both about in both in comedy and in crime, people get what they deserve. So characters get, it's not about going, life's unfair. Generally, it's generally about going, the flaws get punished or revealed, or do you know what I mean, or made public. So like whether that's Basil Fawlty getting into the soup or whatever, or whether it's like crimes being uncovered and punished, it's like being brought to light. It's like a moral form, isn't it? It's like it's a form where you go, I want to be reassured that the world is a fair place.
Yeah. And everything's all right in the end.
Yeah.
Happy ever after.
Happy ever after. But with I think it's like where I think that's true. I mean, obviously there are crime books where people don't get punished and truth isn't discovered, but I hate those books.
Do you prefer a satisfying conclusion?
But I mean, that's an interesting question about what a satisfying conclusion is, isn't it?
Yeah, because it must mean a different thing to each person. I do like it when things are neatly wrapped up in a satisfying way, so we get answers for everything. But at the same time, I don't mind a cliffhanger book, whereas I know a lot of people hate it if you have to wait until the next book. But I think as long as you've got enough things resolved, I can handle the kind of overreaching storyline. You can wait because you have to wait. If you're watching TV, for example, you've got to wait to see what happens in EastEnders. So why can't you with a book? Have your duffer moment with the end of a soap.
It is a longer wait.
Your face.
It's a longer wait, and sometimes like the writer might just die in between.
Yeah.
And you're like, no,
that has happened. I think that has happened.
What's the thing?
But that's definitely dark.
But don't you sometimes, particularly in film, this happens quite a lot, that the film will end and it's like, well, what happened? What happened to that character? Why? Well, it just ended. And there's no resolution. And I guess the filmmaker has their own reasons for that. But it's quite unsatisfying and unnerving. So I do kind of prefer things to be wrapped up personally.
Yeah. Me too.
So do I really. Yeah. I definitely prefer it. I like because in life we don't get that satisfaction a lot of the time.
True.
And I think that's why I really like it in fiction, because it's that thing that you were saying earlier, Abby, about things tying together in the world. You kind of want things to be a certain way. You can't get the resolution in life all the time. So it's nice to have that closure.
Yeah, a bit of poetic justice.
Yeah. I do like a bit of poetic justice.
Yeah.
Let's talk about all the other kind of forms of writing that you've both done, because one of the main things we wanted to discuss today was women writers, particularly in comedy. You know, it's something that I think needs far more women. You know, we need many more women in comedy. So let's talk about the other different kinds of writing that you've done. So Janice, let's start with you.
I have done playwriting. My plays were farces, so they were comedies. I wrote a film, a psychological horror. I co-wrote the film with its director. That was definitely not a comedy. I
Is
don't
that
think
The
it had
Retreat? Because I've been
Retreat.
trying to watch that and it's not on Netflix, which is
Is it
really
not?
annoying.
No, it's not on Netflix. I think you
I think it
can
might
get
be
to
on
read it.
Prime.
Might be on. Is it on Apple? I'm sure you can find it somewhere in the
I'm
outer
going to
reaches of
find
the
it because it
internet.
looks fantastic. I really
I
wanted
have
to
to say,
watch it.
it's an amazing film. I loved writing it, and I still have a great affection for it. I don't think there's a single joke in it. I mean, I challenge anyone to find a
Ooh.
joke. That's like almost I could run a competition to find a joke in the film. So didn't have a joke in it particularly at all. But then after film writing, I tried to get into writing for TV, which I would quite happily have written drama. I was also trying to write sitcoms and comedy. And I met with, I say very little success. I met with no success, if I'm honest. And that's what led me in a very roundabout sort of way to taking up novel writing, and my novels have all been funny. And
Yeah.
I think, so yeah, I'm really drawn to writing humour, even when I'm not writing something that is, has comedy with a big C in it. So yeah, I've done for the screen, for the stage, and now for the page. And I've done journalism as well, and I've done speech writing. I've pretty much done most kinds of writing, I think.
Who'd you write speeches for? I asked you that before.
Yeah, I can't remember. You might have done. Who did I write speech for? I used to work for a civil service communications agency, so I could be writing for anybody to do with the government. From just anyone really to politicians. It was a very wide-ranging job that I did by the seat of my pants, because I knew nothing at all about politics or about any of the subjects I wrote about. It was really like an episode of The Thick of It in life, in actual reality, and I was in the centre of it, and it was terrifying at the time. But writing speeches for real people was a real education, because they're real. They're like characters who have something to say for themselves, and they don't want to say certain things, or they want to say others, and that was challenging. I much prefer fictional characters than real ones.
That sounds amazing. I'd love to do speech writing.
Would you?
Yeah,
I found
I
it
would
tricky.
love
It's not something I would particularly go back to, but yeah, some people love it.
just like all the drama of get it done now stuff. I mean, like.
And Abby, how about you?
I didn't know you were going to ask me that. I feel like I'm going, what have I written? I started out writing, I think like Janice, I probably wrote plays first. So I think the first thing I ever wrote that got put on was like a verse play. It's a play in verse. It's a nativity play. There you go.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Very on season.
It was a sort of very intellectual nativity play about the three wise men. And it was an adaptation from a novel called Gaspard Balthazar and Melchior, which is like a French philosophical novel. So I had to turn it into English verse. So that was a very nutty. That was my nutty first job as a real writer. And then I tended to write a lot. I was also an actor, so, and again, I think that sort of affects things when you're writing comedy. It's quite difficult being just a comedy writer, because I think the industry is kind of quite focused around people who are writer performers. So it's quite difficult being a pure comedy writer. Unless you like team up. Sometimes people team up with performers, don't they, Janice? And
they do. Yeah, that's the way.
Like, I want to write for your voice, and so.
So there are lots of ways into the industry, but the statistics when we spoke, Abby, were quite surprising that it's kind of a 90-10 split, you know, between men and women.
I think the last statistics I saw were really quite, yes. And I think there's been some reports since then, a Diamond report or something. Have you seen that, Janice, about the statistics going backwards? Because it feels like things are sort of improving a lot, like especially in comedy, like especially with the performers who are visible. There are a lot of amazing, funny women out there, you know, and but I think that as far as the kind of writing end goes, it can be slightly eyebrow raising, the sort of history of it. But yeah, no, I wrote comedy for radio and telly and mostly sketch shows, but yeah, mostly sketches and sometimes jokes for people, which is quite a weird. But that's a whole other world. Like gag writing is a whole its own thing, which is more like speech writing, I think, that Janice was doing. So, but yeah, and then I've written lots of sitcoms, but none of my sitcoms has ever made it. Never made it to the telly. I love.
You only need one in the right place at the right time.
You just need one. You just need. There aren't many sitcom slots anymore. There's just
There's hardly any narrative comedy at all, is there? On certainly on terrestrial TV.
No, everything has like a. There's lots of jokes, but they tend to be like everything has a crime element, like or drama element, or you know. I think it's because there's money for something very small and domestic, or made like on a shoestring. So I think you'd have to come up with an idea that can be made on a shoestring if you want to do pure comedy, or it's got to be like something that the Americans will give you some money for, which has got some murders in it. I think that's generally the impression that I get, but I don't.
Like quite a narrow margin for what's being accepted.
Sorry?
Sounds like quite a narrow margin for the type of thing that's being accepted.
Well, I think there are, I don't know, Janice might know more than me, but I think there are fashions on there for things that, you know, like the industry changes, you know, minute by minute, and there are fashions for what people want to commission and what people want to watch, and also what commissioners perceive people want to watch, which is a different thing. And now the algorithms, the way that TV is made is so much on what has been watched previously. And I think I might be being but they've now there's this new agreement with the Screenwriters Guild, which means that part of it is that the broadcasters have to share that information, like, because before they used to hoard the algorithms, so they go, oh no, we're making decisions based on the fact that nobody's watched your show or whatever. And I think there are now new deals in place about how many, so that whether or not that information is shared, who's watching what, basically, so you can have a more transparency about the process. Sorry, I think. Am I right? I might be wrong.
I wonder whether writers and performers, for that matter, should be thinking about TV. Certainly when they're starting their careers, because there's so many opportunities online to present your own work, that is certainly a way forward early in your career these days, rather than trying to get noticed by people who might put your work on the screen. Just put it on yourself, get friends and other people who are actors and performers, if you're just a writer, and do it yourself, get it out there. I mean, that's the kind of advice I would give to young people, anyone, new people starting off in their comedy career, because the odds of getting anything on the screen are so low and so small. I would say take it, take back control and present your own work.
Like, make it yourself.
Yeah.
It's difficult though, isn't it? Because some things like lend themselves to being made themselves, and some things don't. But yeah, if you can, I think it's amazing if you can.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it, because there's a lot of people who have had blogs that have turned into books, and that's set the career off. We've got YouTube. There are so many platforms that I probably can't name. You know, TikTok is huge. People are finding an audience. So it might seem like a lot of free work, but as much as that is the kind of the tipping of the scales for some people, you know, they don't want to do all the things for free and have it come to nothing. You really need to put everything you've got into getting your name and your voice out there. And that's going to take a lot of work before you start seeing the rewards for most people, for almost everyone.
Yeah, I think I've seen some things happen with with new people where people band together. I think is a really good idea. If you're going to because then you've got quality control, and also you're not going to make a joke that's then you're going to go that's ruined your career forever. You go, well, I shouldn't have made that joke or whatever else it is. Like it's essentially putting each other in the role of somebody's the producer, somebody's the writer, but you're all wanting to break through, and so you work together to do it. I think that can work really well. You know, I've seen I had some friends who made it some guys who my brother taught, and they started making stuff, and they won an Oscar.
Wow.
Yeah, won the Oscar. Now they're like toast to Tinseltown. So you do go, can't happen. And you know, and they are like so funny and so hardworking, and you're like, oh, could have happened to some nicer lads, sort of thing. So you know, it's got to happen to someone, hasn't it?
Yeah. So would that have happened if they hadn't done it for themselves?
I don't think so.
Because you can just spend years. I know this because I spent years trying to get noticed, and you know, it just didn't happen.
Yeah. So and me. I've spent many years writing things that don't get made, but I mean every writer does. Like,
yeah,
I think with telly, it's a quite a frustrating process, because writing the artifact that you're producing when you're writing television. I don't know if you feel like this, Janice. It can be quite a sort of because it's not a complete thing. If you're writing a screenplay, no one's going to sit down and read a screenplay. You're producing a working artifact it is part of a process that will eventually turn into a work of art. And so essentially it is a wasted thing if it doesn't get made into anything. And
it's a blueprint, isn't it? It's a blueprint for other creatives to get into it. So it's not the finished article. You're not really communicating with the audience. If you're writing a script, you're communicating with other people in the process. And you often when you're writing a script, you're trying to appeal to them. It's kind of more than an audience.
It's a very frustrating process because unless it finally comes to fruition and is seen, it feels like wasted work. It's very frustrating. So I mean, when I'm writing, I try and like balance it of like, I'm writing a book which I know will be read, and I'm also writing a script that may or may not get made into a show. You know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably won't, because it's very rare that it finally does. Yeah, sorry.
Have either of you? Sorry, go ahead, Janice.
Okay, so I was just going to say, I find that the two forms of writing, the very intense novel writing, is a really great complement to the very much lighter and kind of airy writing of the script. For me, they really work. My ideal day would be writing a novel in the morning and writing a script in the afternoon. It's like that's my perfect day. It's my perfect day.
That's nice, but that's exactly what I do. I do like, because novels like, you've got to give it your energy, and then
Going back to what you were just talking about, have either of you written something in one form and then changed it to become a different form? So a script maybe a script's not taken off, so that's become a book, or a book isn't going the way that you think. Yeah, I know you're winking because you know I already know the answer, but I think it's really interesting.
I have, sort of. I mean, The Appeal, I hadn't actually written any script for it, but I had considered, I thought it was going to be my next spec script. And it was only just before I started writing it that I decided to change at the last minute to try and write it as a novel. So yeah, that was going to be a script. I don't think I've actually changed anything. I include in The Mysterious Case of the Alberton Angels, I actually include a script, and that is a script that I wrote as a film script years and years ago, and I adapted it to be included in the book. So there's that, yeah. So I have. Yeah.
You must have sold yours to the telly though, Janice.
Yeah, I mean, they're all options.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
are,
yeah.
Are you adapting them or is someone else adapting them?
I'm writing the pilots. So, fingers all crossed that I don't die of old age before anything happens, because you know how long these things take. You just don't know, do you?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. But yeah, so I have been writing the scripts of the books, and that is just wonderful. It's just a dream come true.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun. Yeah, I'm also writing the script of my first book.
It's yours optioned as well.
It is, yeah.
Woohoo!
I would love to see that made.
That would be just fabulous, wouldn't it?
Sorry?
That would be fabulous to see.
If it happens, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, if it happens for you or me, champagne's in. That's what we're going to do. But yes, it would be great. It'd be fun. But I'm actually finding it quite like strange adapting because it needs. I'm doing a 6-part series, or probably. So it just there's a bit of plot invention and stuff. So I suppose there is a bit where you have to kind of shake yourself free of what you really felt those characters were, and you're like, no, but that's what happens. That's what happens to them because that's what happened in my head, and now it's in the book. And to go, actually, that we could change that. It's quite hard. I don't know. I find it quite hard to shake it free. What do you think? Do you find it difficult to kind of loosen up and?
Yeah, and to think of things happening differently to what they happened in the book. Yeah, because you feel like you're betraying your book to do anything differently. But you have to, because it's the same if you're ever watching a film and you think, I've read the book of this and they haven't included an X character that I loved, or there's a whole subplot in this film that they just haven't included from the book. And it's when you're going the other way, you have to like lose a lot from a book to put it on the screen. So yeah, it just feels awful to get rid of these amazing characters that really serve the story and everything in the book, but they just don't work on screen, or you have to do them so differently. They're a different character on the screen, or they don't work at all. So it's a mindset, I think, that you have to get into if you're adapting your own work.
Yeah, I find it difficult. Well, the thing I find slightly difficult is one of my characters. This is going to go a bit deep now, but one of the characters is like really influenced by fate and superstition, and you can do that in a book, and it's really hard to do it on the screen. So I find losing that element quite heartbreaking. Because I agree that it's just like you don't really want, like you don't want to go, ooh, here's a spooky coincidence in a screen because you just go, oh, come on. Whereas you can do that in a book because you're sort of talking about one character's perception, what they're choosing to see in the world and how it's leading them into conclusions. Whereas I don't think you can, if you do that on screen, you're already focusing on what the camera sees. So it's harder to, there are some elements of like what I would consider like the wonderful themes of like the 18th century novels, like how much we're fated to do things and how much we choose our own destiny, which I think are quite hard to discuss in television. A bit.
Do you both find that you bring different parts of yourself to each project? You know, the same way that we might present ourselves in one way at work, one way at home, that kind of thing. Do you think you need different bits of you for each? Whether it's a book, whether it's a screenplay?
I certainly, having written 4 books now, I think each book has a different part of me in it, I think, or maybe not the book so much as the main characters in it. Like Izzy in The Appeal is very much me. She's quite a needy, not that I'm a needy character, I need to say that I'm not a needy character. I have that in me, or I have that fear that I might be like that. So in Izzy, I was putting that fear out there and putting them in a character. It's Steve in the Twyford Code. He was very much a me character, totally different to Izzy, very sort of forthright and I would say honest in his own brand of honesty. And then in the Alberton Angels, Amanda, someone I would want to be. Same as Sam, actually, in The Appeal. So I think in all of these books, there's an element of who I am and who I would like to be and who I fear I am. You know, there's all. I think you're never far from yourself when you create characters, even if they're ones that you've observed. So yeah, I'd say there's different bits of me in each book, for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree that you sort. I definitely think you sort of write. You often sort of discover you're writing something that you need to learn, or you're. Do you know what I mean? Or you're delving into some flaw, or you have that you want to resolve. Like when you're writing comedy, it's kind of, in some ways it's easier because you can just go, here's a stupid thing I did when I was 22 and I've turned it into a plot. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of it's kind of a simpler. And then I always just used to get the note from TV people for my sitcoms. They were always like, but she's so dislikable.
That's the thing, isn't it?
That's
the debate between likable and what is a dislikable character, because you know, not everyone can be likable. It can be dislikable. Oh my goodness, it's like, relatable. Dislikable can be relatable.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't have to be. That's what I feel. I was like, I agree that she, me, is dislikable. But also, like a lot of us are like that, right? A lot of us are like
relatable.
You know, I'm just going. I'm vain. I'm foolish. I'm, drunk a lot. I whatever problems I had at the age of 22 or whatever problems I have now, you're just delving into them yourself. And so,
well, hopefully that's like the comedy of recognition, isn't it? When people laugh when they recognize themselves or their own experiences. So you kind of hope that by putting those things out there, that other people relate to it and they laugh or they find it.
And sometimes they do, and they're like, oh, brilliant. I've done exactly the same thing. And sometimes they're like, no. Nobody thinks like that. No one thinks like that.
It's one of the things that you both do so well with your characters, because there are parts of the Christmas Appeal where Celia's making my blood boil. And, you can just see the people that you've maybe met in the past who would fit that role, or you just literally plonked in the middle of this group of amateur dramatic actors, and you just find that the pettiness is so funny. Kind of, there are so many things going on, and then with Mother's Day, you've got Anna who really wants something so badly that she doesn't see all the red flags that are literally.
Yes.
Somebody might as well be walking in front of her. You could have a line of people.
Yeah.
Red flag. Yeah. So it's just that's the kind of thing that drags you in. It's that thing of relatability. You see that element of, hopefully, it's not all of us, but we know that there are elements of that in us and in the people around us. So you must have so much fun getting to really dig in and explore these characters, and just know that your readers are going to be irritated. They're going to hide behind the hands reading bits. They're just going to be infuriated by the ridiculousness of the people who want things done a certain way, which just makes it harder for everybody else. And you must have so much fun writing things like that, because it's certainly fun to read.
I had the most fun writing the Christmas Appeal than I did with any other novel. It was absolutely it was a screamer minute, but it's always a risk when you're writing something like that is from things that you've observed yourself or your own experiences, people you've known. There is always that risk that other people might not have had those experiences and might not relate to this. So I think you're always taking a chance when you're creating anything, really. But with comedy, it's more of a chance, because you are out and out trying to make people laugh. And if they don't laugh, they can be quite angry or quite resentful that you're trying to make them laugh and you're not. So it's always a risk. But yeah, I had a fabulous time. And you just have to hope that people reading it will enjoy it and recognise those characters too.
But I think what Janice is so good at with her characters is, like, they're so consistent. Like, you have that thing, like a really good comedy character, you should be going, oh, I know exactly what they're going to do. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I know what's going to happen now, because you know that character is petty in that particular way, or you know that character's too vain to accept a compliment, or whatever it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you're like, Oh, I've got to. So I think Janice is great at making, because there's so many characters and you know just who all of them are.
Yeah.
So you're like, this will throw the cat among the pigeons. Because
We've got somebody buying ingredients for shepherd's pie for dinner and watching while they shop. And somebody else has commented, so I think it's Rebecca Collins, who is watching while you shop. Hello. Hello to everyone who's watching. I've not got any names at all today, so hello to everybody, because I've no idea who any of you are at the moment.
Hello, everyone.
So thank you for joining us. I can see Laura. Laura said comedians also make great dramatic actors too. Do you find that both of you can put, I know we talked about different sides of you in characters, but your skill sets there must be crossover. Even though writing a script is, one thing and writing a book's another, there must be skills that merge and are useful in various ways.
Janice?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think good comedy has all the ingredients of drama. It's just that it also makes you laugh. So that's why I think comedy and comedy writing, it's harder. Fewer people can do it, but it's more rewarding when you can. That's the thing. I mean, some people do write without any jokes or any humor at all, and it's not necessarily bad. I mean, I've read some great books and seen great dramas with no jokes in them. But I think if you can handle humor, if you can bring in humor, just like we do in everyday life, then you get right through to the heart of your audience, and you can really touch them in ways that you couldn't otherwise. So.
I think I agree that I think it's great if you can. I think that saying that just like in everyday life, because I think most people use humor all the time, and so sometimes I think if I'm reading something which doesn't have any jokes in it, sometimes I'm a bit like, this is a bit weird. Because it doesn't feel like life. But although I totally agree that some things with no jokes at all can be absolutely amazing. The Retreat, for example. Let's give us that.
Retreat. I mean, actual real life, we find ourselves laughing sometimes when the absolute worst things happen. It's like that's when we find humour, and because it's like a safety valve in life. I think the comedy is like that too. It's just such a relief to laugh at things or at nothing. It's just a wonderful safety valve for us.
Yeah, somebody's hoping for a closer look at Janice's bookshelves. You're going to have to pause and zoom in later.
You're going to have to do that. They're really old. What you can see behind me are really old paperbacks. So you'll find lots of old, I can't do the pointing, they're old penguins up there. So yeah, good luck. They're mainly from my English degree. So there's some nice titles up there that I haven't read in about 35 years. So everything else in the room is a mess.
Abby, you went to say something and we started talking at the same time.
Oh no, I've got out of my mind. Go.
Somebody's saying about humour as a coping mechanism, and yeah absolutely. And I find in my house we have quite a dark humour for different things, and it definitely helps with if something serious happens. We'll make dark jokes once we feel that everyone's ready for it, and it does diffuse things.
Yeah,
no,
I tend to make those jokes when no one's ready for them, and then I'm like, shut up! But yes, no, it is a useful thing, isn't it? But I think I suppose it goes to that. What are the similarities between, apart from being kind of more like it's a moral universe? Like if you're making a joke, it's allowing you to try to. It's I suppose it's a question of what is the function of humor. So it allows you to reset. It allows you to put your arms around your faults. It allows you to accept yourself, right? Accept yourself. I think that's the. I mean, I always because I teach comedy, and then I was like, I get a bit pointy-headed about what is the purpose of it? What are we doing? And so there's so many different reasons we laugh, like whether or not it's because we're reasserting the status quo and like who the group is, or whether or not who's in the group and who's out of the group, or whether it's recognizing a universal truth comes suddenly, and you go, oh my goodness, I've just seen how things are connected. I heard a really funny, there was a German comic, I actually think I might put it in my next book, but there's a German comic who used to go, oh, my yolks are not going down. I used to do stand-up, being in the green room, my yolks are not going down so well, my yolks. And I always used to think of, I was like, oh, that's really good, isn't it? And he was like, they're yolks, sorry, they're yolks. They're like yoking together two things where you go, ugh, I've got this thing, and look, they go together. And you go, oh, look, those two things are the same. So in some ways, it's like, I was talking to Janice earlier about, for an article, she sent me some stuff about why she thought comedy and crime were connected. And you said something really astute about how jokes will quite often, like a pullback and reveal will be about when you show somebody the information. Like you go, that you put together two bits of information and then you go, and then he got off the bus or whatever it is, whatever the punchline is.
Yeah.
And in a way, you kind of do the same thing with a crime where you go, I've got this and I've got this, and
oh, it's the timing. Yeah, there's I mean, comedy and crime share that timing relation. It's all in the timing, how you set something up, and when you, like a reveal is a punchline, isn't it? It's like this, the equivalent. And that's something when I go back after I've written the first draft of a novel, I'll go back and look at that timing in quite forensic detail and check that things are built up to and revealed at particular moments. And again, that's something you have to do in comedy a lot, to make sure that there's enough beats before that reveal to make it the funniest that it's going to be. One beat too many or one beat too few, and it just won't be the same joke. And it's the same with revealing twists and information in a crime. Maybe now, after, I don't know how long we've been on air, but we finally got to the bottom of this link between comedy and crime.
It's
the
like
timing.
It's like tension, isn't it? It's like
you
have tension, and you can either dissipate that tension with a joke, or you can dissipate it with someone stabs.
With a terrible reveal.
Or oh my god. So you're either going to go, oh, it's okay, you didn't need to be scared, or you say, you did need to be scared. Something awful.
And it's worse than you ever thought.
It was worse than, exactly. That's the key, isn't it? Is to go, oh, I'm thinking something bad's going to happen. I'm thinking something's bad. Nothing happened. I'm thinking something bad's going to happen. I'm thinking something bad's going to happen. Something way worse happened. And then we go, oh, yeah. So
there's a book that I will not mention who wrote it, because this would be a huge spoiler, and I'm not going to give the actual details, but it's that thing of the build up and then removing. So there was an incident that happened and you thought the character was going to die, but then something other happened to them that was awful. And then a couple of pages later, or a couple of chapters later, the author killed the person anyway. And I love that, because it means I can't trust the author. I don't know what they're going to do to the characters. I really love it when I have no idea how you're going to mess with me, and you're going to take people away that I absolutely need to read more of. But it adds to the tension, doesn't it? You need that. I can't trust you one little bit. You are going to do something devious. And every time I speak to this author, or I might see a meme every once in a while and just send them it, and that's our entire conversation. Me sending a meme about being heartbroken about the death of a character, and the author using the laughing emoji. It's kind of, this is our entire conversation. And I love that creeping, you're going to do something, oh, you did it, oh, that was awful, oh, my, what have you, why, there is a second burst, what is going on? And I think that build up, you both make it look, again, really easy. And it is far from it, but I love the fact that you do have devious minds.
I quite like having a devious mind, but I have to say that if you ever kill off a character that's you've got to know and love in your book, I always kind of think twice about it. I think, oh, that would be a shame if they died. Oh, shall I not kill them off? No, I'm going to kill them off anyway. No, they can
do
go.
You not think better save them for series 2?
It could always all just
Gotta
be a
leave it
dream.
out. Gotta
The
leave
series
it
one
out.
could be a
for the next
dream.
series.
Could be worse. It could be the other way around, where you really want to kill somebody off and the publisher goes, no, there's at least 5 more books here. You're not allowed to kill them. But then you've got 5 books to really think of a great way for them to go out.
To die. Like
Or you can just kill them off and then say they faked their death. That's an option.
It was all a dream.
Yeah.
How much do you two feel like you've changed as authors over the years? Lots of different writing skills, as we've discussed, but there must be things that you would maybe do differently now, or things that if you're starting, the same as if you're writing a series, you've got lots to think about in a different way to a standalone, unless your publisher asks you to change the standalone into a series because it's got series potential. There's so many things to always think about. It's a lot to juggle.
Yeah, I think if I were writing The Appeal again, I don't know whether I would do this again or not. But certainly when The Appeal appeared, I was made to realise that the murder happens very late. It's like at least 3/4 of the way through, because I didn't realise what the rules were in crime fiction. The murder happens, at the latest, it's sort of quarter of the way through. Well, people were waiting a long time to find out who died in The Appeal. So yeah, and these. I think I'm getting a lot faster in writing novels. So I think I must be more confident. Yeah, for sure. I mean, but it still feels really intense. Like it doesn't get any easier. And whenever I start a new novel, I feel like I'm still at the bottom of that mountain again. So there's to an extent, it's always difficult and intense to write a novel. But I mean, if it was easy, then it wouldn't be so enjoyable, I guess.
True.
I don't know if I've changed at all, but then I'm quite, I'm only doing my second one. But yeah,
but you've been writing for a long time.
I have been writing forever. I am very old.
I
mean, I think I've got more willing. I mean, I think just moving into crime, I think I'm probably just sort of stopped going. Just want everything to be nice. I think I had quite a strong bit of that of going, I just want to make something really entertaining that makes people happy. Just want to make people happy. And now I'm a bit more like, let's make them sad for a bit and then a bit happy, but also a bit scared. And that's all right. I think what I want to do with my work has slightly changed. That I still want it to be I think that comedy can be very, very, very profound. And when comedy is profound, it's miraculous because it's the nicest way to be fed, right? With sugar. You want it's if I could write Groundhog Day, I could die happy because I'd have made something so it's something like that is so profound, so deeply profound, but also so watchable and enjoyable. So I was always trying to hit that, whereas now I'm maybe I should just give in to what my thing is, whatever my thing is.
Lean in.
Probably that I see the world in quite a horrifying way, and that I see bad things happening, and that it's all right to sometimes talk about the bad things. It's very hard to make pure comedy about some of the subjects that I'm writing about at the moment, and in fact it would be impossible. And so while jokes are definitely necessary to sweeten the deal, I think that they aren't the actual kind of point anymore. But I'm not dissing comedy as being. I think you can address if you're good enough, you can address anything with joke, and in the sort of but it's hard, right? It's hard to make jokes about profound things without upsetting people and without and that's the opposite of what you want to do, because you want to bring people in, you want to tell a story and say something.
That's not part of it though, pushing the boundaries and really expanding on things, because it's going to touch somebody somewhere and it's going to create conversation. Some of the biggest sellers have been things that some people absolutely love, and rave about, and some people can't bear the content and the themes.
Yeah.
I think if there's a purpose, then you can justify it. Like, I suppose the only time I can think that I've pushed the boundaries is in the Alperton Angels, because that's a book about the link between real life, true crime, fiction, and the reality of murder. And I do take it right to the edge, and I think there's a few times that I step beyond that to make a point in that book, and some people have picked up on that, but it's all done for a purpose, because I do wrestle with my love of true crime and my consumption of true crime as entertainment. That's something that I wrestle with, and I wanted to address in the book, so that it has that purpose. I think it would be my fear to accidentally overstep the mark, and suddenly upset people, and you don't intend to, but you do that without, and that I'd be quite upset if I did that.
Yeah, there is definitely something in that. I find it difficult to say, oh, I really enjoyed that documentary about that crime that I watched.
Yeah.
Even though at the time you find it fascinating, you are at odds with that enjoyment of it, because it doesn't feel quite right to find such joy in somebody else's pain, I suppose.
Yeah, excitement. I think. I mean, a lot of true crime documentaries, etc., build up the excitement in the same way a drama would, exactly the same way. So you respond as an audience member as you would to a drama, and that's if you stand back, that feels problematic.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the whole question, isn't it, of how much time has to go by from one. It seems to be getting shorter and shorter and shorter, like before you can consume it as a story.
Yeah.
I think there was a sketch in one of the sketch shows that I wrote for once, which was them doing like a Jack the Ripper style tour of like a murder that had happened last night.
Yeah.
Like, that was the joke, is sort of going, when is it okay?
Profound. That is profound satire. To what you've described.
So you can make So
that's
I think
really saying something.
Yeah, you can really say something with a good joke. I'm sorry I can't credit whoever wrote that, because it wasn't me, but it was a great idea.
It sounds fabulous. I didn't even see it, but I love it.
Yeah, it was a great idea.
Thank you both so much, and thank you to everybody who's come and watched today. We've hit the hour. That has absolutely disappeared, which I knew it would with you two. Would you like to give us a reminder of books or shows or anything at all that you want to give a mention to? Please do. Should we start with you, Janice?
Oh yeah, I happen to have a copy of The Christmas Appeal right here with me. It's out now at all good bookshops and all bad ones as well. It's very funny. It's a follow-on from The Appeal, my 2021 novel, and I loved writing it. Hope you enjoy reading it. Happy sleuthing.
Abby?
There you go. I've got Mother's Day. Mother's Day.
You have got it with you. Yeah, you have.
But it's going to have a different cover. It's coming out in paperback in March. It'll have a different cover then. It'll be blue.
Oh.
Yes. Looks more. So there's that, and otherwise I just want to say Happy Christmas.
Yeah, we haven't touched on quite enough Christmas this time. Next up at 5 o'clock, there is a historical crime panel with Guy Gardner, Tanya Scott and Chris Speck. So please do come back for that, everyone. And Ben's quiz of the year is on at 8 p.m. tonight, which I'm really looking forward to. I am the worst quizzer in the world. I have a good go, but if I don't know the answer, they're all Poirot. That's it. That's become the running joke now. Everything's Poirot. I think I had 7 Poirots and none of them were right in the last quiz that I did. So not the best. Not the best. Nobody's limboing under my score. Thank you both so much. I hope you'll come back and talk to us again in the future about other books.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sam. Yeah, thank you.